If you perfect this lesson from this year's Adventure Challenge training, your buddies will either say you're stupid for doing it and it's dangerous because they're jealous and they can't do it or they don't understand it, or they're going to be really jealous and they're going to want to copy you and they're going to ask how you figured it out. Now there's a couple prerequisites before I get into this. One, motorcycles are dangerous, guys. That's why we ride them. And if you don't have the prerequisites, you're likely to get yourself hurt. So make sure you're wearing all your protective gear and including the most heavy duty off-road boots that you own. If you're not gonna practice in those on pavement, you're definitely not gonna have the skills when you get off-road. Also, if you've never done this before, go ahead and pull your panniers off just so you don't get hung up on the bike, throw your bike on the ground and damage you and or your motorcycle and all the accessories you spent all that money on. Now the prerequisites for this. One, you need to be able to mount and dismount your motorcycle from both the left and the right side without loading the side stand. I did a lesson on that right here. You also need to be able to do a rolling mount and a rolling dismount. I also did a lesson on that. That lesson is right here. The last one is we need to do a hip pocket turn. I have done a lesson on that, but I'll go ahead and talk about that during this lesson as well. Great skill to practice. Guys, if you haven't figured out what this is all about, this is about clutch, throttle, balance, and trust of your motorcycle. And it's a great way to get polished up for the season before you get onto the dirt, before you get out and riding again. And everything I teach at my training camps, everything I teach on the training tours, everything I teach on this channel is about dissecting things down to very easy step-by-step processes. I'm going to break this into 3 separate pieces: our dismount, our turn, and our exit. On the approach, on the first part of it is knowing where you're going to make that turn. You need to be looking down on the ground, on the trail, and know that's exactly where I want to turn the bike. And the reason is when you get to that spot, as you step off the motorcycle, it's still in motion. We're using the momentum of the motorcycle to make the turn easier for us. But as we step off, that bike's going to need to go from straight line to full lock and leaned, all in one very smooth motion. So you're picking your spot. You don't get to just do this anywhere on the trail. That's why we're starting off in the pavement, so you can learn the process and you can deal with the more complexities once you get out in the wild. So part 1, step 1, know where you're going to make the turn. The next thing is take away some of the drama of everything going on, remove the motor from the equation, go ahead and squeeze that clutch in. 2 fingers is my preference, so I'm going to pull that clutch in, disconnect that power, so I'm now coasting into my spot. Once the bike is in a coasting mode, is just to swing my outside leg over onto the side I'm going to step off onto, and then I'm just going to let the backside, usually for me it's right about where my knee is, that's going to rest right up against that seat. That allows me to stay center and balanced on the motorcycle, but ready for the dismount. And I'm just going to let the bike just coast on in with the clutch in. I'm going to start using that front brake to slow to the speed, so when I step down off the bike, I'm into a walking process going around the corner, and I'm not trying to chase the bike and it's not trying to get away from me. Enough speed to carry momentum, but not so fast that we have to chase the motorcycle. The first part of this is a traditional rolling dismount, with one exception. Go ahead and leave the motor running. This way, when you dismount the motorcycle, you have clutch and power to continue to carry the bike through the curve, and then also to stand the bike up to pull you up off the ground. Here's where the term hip pocket turn comes from. I'm gonna stuff the motorcycle into my right rear hip pocket. I'm not gonna stand next to the bike and be tall like I do for rolling dismount. I wanna get down underneath the bike a little to allow it to roll into my hip. This allows, also by dropping down low on the bike, you can get your leg farther out, you get your other leg back and behind you. This is also why this is a good activity or a good skill set if you have a really tall motorcycle or if you're a shorter rider, because you don't have to be on top of the seat. You get down underneath the motorcycle where a regular U-turn or a U-turn where you may have to drop your feet becomes very, very risky. Once you're down in this position, the bike is supported by the hip and the momentum of the turn. I approach at about 3 to 5 miles per hour when I do my dismount. Within a few feet, my handlebar should be at full lock. Hands are relaxed, so I have nice, smooth motor control of the clutch and the throttle. In the dirt, you want to have this muscle memory because you're going to be looking and scanning for traction changes in your footing as you turn the bike around. But because we're practicing in a paved environment, which is a great place, this is the best place to learn this skill set, you can really focus on getting the vision back and building just muscle memory. Once we stuff the bike into our hip pocket, we just want a little bit of clutch to keep the bike moving, and then we can step back up onto the foot peg and then slowly mount. For a lot of riders, this last part, which is getting back up onto the foot pegs, is the most intimidating part because there's things moving. If the bike feels out of control, or if you feel overwhelmed, if things are happening too fast, don't try to do the mount. Square up the bike, stop, get on the bike, and give it another shot. Don't get hurt doing this activity. It's really not a difficult mounting process once you get going. In fact, it's easier than a rolling cowboy start or a regular mount because the bike is already leaning into you. You're low on the bike. As it rolls around, all you have to do is get it upright enough to get your outside foot, in this case my left foot, up onto the foot peg. Now what I do is I add clutch and throttle, I add power. Now power is going to right the motorcycle. As that motorcycle straightens up, it's going to pull me up with that, up off the ground. Now I'm into a traditional rolling cowboy start or rolling mount start, and I just step over the motorcycle. Riding is not an event. It is a process. If you know the steps, if you know the details, then it's not such a big deal. Let's go through the details one last time before I sign off on this, because details matter. When we're doing the rolling dismount, pull that clutch in, leave the motor running this time. That way as you're in position, you'll have that power when you get the bike coming around. When you transition from the standing to the feet on the ground, you're going to drop to the ground and put your butt directly down under that side of the seat. So stuff that bike into that hip pocket. Within a foot or two of that dismount, or within 1.5 to 2 feet, what I want you to do is make sure you're trying to get that bike to full lock. If it's not a full lock, then the bike's going to try to run away from you. It's important to get that bike tight and leaned into your body so you can make that U-turn in the tightest space available. That also gives you better control. That momentum of that dismount should be carried through by bleeding out a little bit of power from the clutch, or using your friction zone, using your gray zone, slipping the clutch, whatever term you want to use. But you're going to be adding just a little bit of power. You're not throwing the clutch, you're just going to massage it, just enough power so you're in complete control and you can casually walk next to the motorcycle. On the mount, as you come around before the bike comes upright, you're going to come up with the outside foot, you're going to put it up onto that foot peg, and you're going to finish off the turn by adding clutch and throttle. That'll stand the bike up. As the bike stands up, it should pull you off the ground. Now you're riding in a rolling mount position. At that point, you just swing the leg over and you're good to go. Vision's important in this, especially when we start practicing in conditions like we are here, where we're on pavement. Target your turn point. Know exactly the spot you're turning every single time. Put a mark on the ground, put a leaf on the ground, because you want that accuracy on the trail. That detailed accuracy matters. You want to know where it's at. Once you get your turn, then your focus needs to be able to change to look at where you want to head the other direction. In the real world, when it's muddy and dirty, you may end up scanning the ground as you're walking the bike through. You may also end up looking down at that peg as you put your foot up onto the peg and then continue to ride out. But in those surfaces like this, it allows you to focus on getting that vision up high. So when you get in those more complex situations where you need to be dropping your vision, the muscle memory is already in place and you're going to be safe making this maneuver. As long as you've done the prerequisites to do this rolling hip pocket turn, it's an extremely safe maneuver and very, very useful, especially so we're not making multiple turns. And because when I teach in my classes, what I teach and everything that I teach comes back to this concept of conserving energy. The more energy you have at the end of the day, the better your decisions are, the less likely you're going to make a bad decision. The less likely you're going to make a mistake where you tell your body to do something and it doesn't respond quickly. We ride out with a third of our energy, we ride home with a third, and 1/3 of that energy is for the things that we hope never happen. And the best way to help conserve that energy and to extend our day is to conserve energy. This technique is a useful technique for energy conservation. Thanks for watching my channel. If you're interested in coming and doing a class with me, I do have the 2024 schedule up. It's filling up very, very quickly. Next month, actually in a couple weeks, I'll be out in Georgia. So check that out. If you want to get in, I think I have like 2 spots left. So you're welcome to join me out there. And it's at Tkacs.com. If you enjoy these videos, please share them with your friends, hit like, leave a comment, ask questions down below. And if you really want to help keep the video channel and these free lessons going, please consider joining all of those on Patreon who support this channel, who are the ones that make this possible. And if you are one of those supporters, thank you so very much for making it possible for me to do what I do. Talk to you guys later. Make sure you get out and practice. Riding season's here.